In the next topics, and those are the ones that we did not cover. So up to here, inshallah, all of this was clear. We knew what, all of this was covered, and we have gone through all of these, the proofs, the points that go to each one of these elements that we just described. From here, I think, inshallah, it's a little bit of a complement to what we presented. There's a first topic related to Alam al-Barzakh, and again, this is not a matter of consensus. Okay, so again, as I've always said, I try to expose you to certain things just to give you kind of the tools, and you know where to look and what are the issues that are a matter of consensus and what are the issues where there might be a bit of contention or disagreement between some of the scholars. This is one of them. To what extent is there intercession in Alam al-Barzakh? So the general rule, and the majority of our scholars say that there is no intercession that happens, there is no shafa'ah that happens in Alam al-Barzakh. And of course, this is all based on the traditions, on the narrations. Do all of them say that? No. And we're going to see the alternatives. Okay, but just generally speaking, so that you understand where the majority of the opinion is. We have narrations, and here we have two of them. In one of them, and this is in Tafsir al-Qummi, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, I swear that I fear nothing for you except Barzakh. So he's talking to his followers. Then he adds, for when the matter will be to us, in other words, when it will be judgment day, when we will be in the hereafter, the afterlife, it shall be more fitting for us to take care of you. Okay, so once you will be in the afterlife, and where we will exercise our shafa'ah fully, this is when we will really take care of you through our shafa'ah. But in Alam al-Barzakh, so what we understand from this is that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is perhaps saying that there is no shafa'ah, or their shafa'ah is not applied in a direct way in Alam al-Barzakh. Okay, so that's one narration. In another narration, I don't have it in Arabic here, it would have been too long. Amr ibn Yazid says, I told Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I have heard you saying, all of our followers will ultimately be in paradise. So he's telling Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I heard you saying, all of your Shia, all of your followers will end up in paradise, will end up in heaven. Okay? Will be in paradise regardless of how they are. So now we're going to understand what he means by how they are. He said, I have told you the truth by God. They will be all in paradise. So the person asking, the companion of the Imam asking the question, now asks where the objection is. Now adds where the objection is. So the narrator says, may I be a sacrifice to you? The sins are many and are great. So how can all these people end up in heaven if they have, like many other people, they have sins, they have a lot of sins, and some of their sins are great sins. So the Imam responds, he says, as for the day of judgment, they will be in paradise through the intercession of the Prophet, whose orders, i.e., whose intercession, whose orders are obeyed, or through the intercession of one of his successors. Okay, so at the end, one way or another, they will be in paradise. Then he adds, the Imam adds, but I swear by God that I fear the Barzakh for you. Okay, so the narrator asked, and what is al-Barzakh? To which the Imam replied, the grave, from the moment of death until the day of judgment. These are a couple of the more famous narrations that we have, and there are a few others, that explicitly state from some of the Imams that there is no intercession happening in Alam al-Barzakh. This, I started the slide with as a general rule. Okay, so even in these rules, in these matters, we know that there are always exceptions. That's one. Okay, so first and foremost, this is a general rule. But this is an important thing to keep in mind for us, that perhaps even when there is intercession, it does not apply the same way in Alam al-Barzakh. So let this be a reminder and a warning for us, that we're kind of on our own in Alam al-Barzakh. That's one. Now let's add a few more points to this. When we go through the narrations, we're not saying that the intercession, the shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, does not apply at all as soon as we are dead and until we reach Alam al-Akhirah, the afterlife. That's not what we're saying. Clearly, in all the narrations, there is a consensus that as a human being is going through the dying moments, so all of this, the moment you are dying, the moment the soul is getting extracted, the moment you are actually dead, and as you are starting to being questioned. All of that, so this is the beginning leading up to what we've described as Alam and Barzakh. There is a clear presence of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam during that time. So that's one. So let's establish that clearly. So it's not to say that there's absolutely no presence from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That's one thing to keep in mind. Afterwards, there is a difference between saying that there is no intercession, so it becomes a technical issue. There is no intercession, and saying that the effect of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam is not the same when we are in Alam al-Barzakh, which may most likely be what the Imam is referring to. Why do we say that? Because when you go through the narrations, and there's a lot of them, dozens upon dozens of narrations having to do with this topic, a lot of them fall into this general category. So here I've given you one big example because there's a lot of narrations and the same meaning, so you get a glimpse of a lot of them at once, where you're told, for instance, that as a human being dies, and before they are questioned, there are entities that look extremely good that start appearing around them. So one of those entities, in one of those narrations, for instance, one of those entities comes to stand by the right of the human being, and another one by the left of the human being, and another one by their feet, and another one by their head, and one of them, much bigger and much more beautiful and much more illuminating, much stronger in effect, comes to kind of hover or be on top of the human being. And so the A'imma describe to us, and they say the one on the right is your prayer. The one on your left is your fasting. The one at your feet is going to be charity and pilgrimage. So these are what we generally refer to as the pillars of our actions, right? The most important of, sometimes we refer to them as furu' ad-din, the practical teachings of Islam. And then you have the one on top, and this is al-wilayah. This is your understanding and your following of the right leadership in this life. This is your belief in who your Imam is. Who did the Holy Prophet tell you to follow? Okay, so you have all of that, and then if you go in more narrations, we're told the wilayah talks to them. It tells the prayer and the charity, take care of him, and whatever you cannot handle, I will take care of it. So this is where you start understanding the role of the wilayah. That it is the most powerful, the most effective one, but it plays a different role. You cannot go there without any prayer, and you cannot go there without any fasting, and you cannot go there without any pilgrimage. But it's telling them the deficiencies and the lacks, I will take care of them. Okay? But what is the wilayah? If it's not this relationship and link with Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So, while you may say there is no intercession, we're not saying that your attachment and your love of and your following and your respect of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam plays no role. It is clearly playing a role. In fact, it's probably playing the biggest role in your barzakh. It's just not playing a different role, which is, and inshallah we're going to devote a couple of lectures to shafa'ah and how it operates, what it means, and we establish it very clearly later. It's just not playing that technical role. But we're not saying that your attachment and relationship to the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, those are the people you have to follow, those are the people that you have to consider your leaders and you take your teachings from them, that it has no more purpose during Alam al-Barzakh. That's absolutely not what we're saying. In fact, as we said, the narrations are saying the opposite. And we have other narrations that say this goes through, and this is in preparation to the interrogation. And whether it's before or after, as we said, there are many narrations that we have in which Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are there and they let go. The interrogation means that if someone has a strong wilayah, they will no longer be further interrogated because they have those core pieces, so they're set for Alam al-Barzakh. That part is taken care of. The next phase is going to be their judgment in the afterlife. Okay, so inshallah this part is clear. That's one. And of course, there's other narrations. I mentioned patience here. We have in some narrations that there is also patience patience plays that role too. So we have different narrations on which of these entities, which of your good actions, good intentions, good traits manifest themselves with you as you enter Alam al-Barzakh. They basically keep you company. And all of this is summarized in the narrations and the traditions, and there are countless of them that basically say and state again and again that your only companion in the grave, your only true companion that stays with you in the grave is your deeds. If your deeds were good, you have a good companion. So here we have a splitting up of that companion into the different actions and deeds. But as we said again and again, how all of this actually manifests itself to us, how we experience it once in the grave, we don't know. We have to be there to see. It's a different realm, it's a different entity. Okay, but clearly this is a manifestation of our beliefs and our deeds, all happening in the grave. Another point that is perhaps something to keep in mind, now it's getting technical, but in case someone is interested in all of this, as we said, if you start looking into this topic, you might see some contradictory statements from different scholars or what you find in different books. That's why we're talking about this. Is that this is not, for instance, the shortcoming is not on the type of the kind of intercession or the power or the effectiveness of the intercession. Is that if you spend time understanding the nature of certain deeds, the nature of certain beliefs, we believe that every act that you perform, every belief that you have, has a different function. It comes out in a different way. So if you are in Alam al-Barzakh, your actions in this world translate in a certain way. If you happen to reach the afterlife, you see that those actions will manifest in a different way. Let's say prayer, let's say fasting, let's say belief, wilayah for instance, patience. Each one of these has an effect. It has a different effect or impact or consequence in Alam al-Barzakh and the afterlife. So it's not so much that there's a lack of intercession as the type of world it is and the nature of your deeds and how they appear. This is just not the type of system to allow for that type of intercession that we know and we refer to, and inshallah we're going to talk about in the afterlife, to take place in the Barzakh, in Alam al-Barzakh. Okay, so that's one part. And then finally, and perhaps this is the most important point in all of this, is that no matter how you spin this, and no matter how you look at this, the Imams are clearly sending a warning message to all of us. Beware that you are headed into a territory where there is serious danger awaiting you. Be prepared. The alam that awaits you, Alam al-Barzakh, is not an easy moment or not an easy phase to think that you can just get away with it because you believe and you have wilayah, basically. So that's going to be easy enough. It's going to be a breeze for all of us because we have a little bit of wilayah. So the Imams are sending clear, no matter how much detail you want to get into, one thing is clear in that the traditions and the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we are getting warnings that we need you to come having done enough good and be in pretty good shape to start with when you enter Alam al-Barzakh. Otherwise, as we said, some of the purposes of Alam al-Barzakh is to purify people, to get them ready for Alam al-Akhirah, so that the worst of it happens in Alam al-Barzakh. Well, how about you do enough good in this world that there is nothing to purify and nothing to make better during Alam al-Barzakh, so that your Barzakh is good. And who knows how long you're staying in Barzakh. It's not something that just happens overnight and it's like a shot in the arm and you move on. So be prepared. Don't make all your focus and your reliance only on I follow Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, therefore I will have intercession, and that should be good enough for me. It will help me out. No, you have to come ready with the things that we mentioned. Do you give charity? Do you help your brethren? As we see in many of the narrations that we have, some of those entities that manifest themselves, for instance, providing service to those who need it in the community. Well, do you play that role at all, or are you coming with, you're someone who just spent their time, and it's amazing and it's good that you spent your time, let's say, only praying. Prayer is amazing. That's one of the pillars you need, and it will show up for you. But you were meant to play those other roles too. Did you do anything about them, or you just let it be? You let it go and you neglected it, so you're going to come with a deficiency. There's a lack. You're going to need something to compensate here. So inshallah, they compensate each other. But you can't go there with only a reliance that I've done a little bit and this should be good enough. No, you have to say, I've done enough that I'm confident that I've done everything I can and I'm coming here with confidence. I've done my duty. Now there might be shortcomings, there might be sins, there might be mistakes. Inshallah, I've done enough good. Not going there thinking, knowing already that I haven't done anything. I've been neglectful and I've lived just a life of sin and mistakes, never repenting, never trying anything, and I just let it go. Just blind reliance on intercession for him. That's not enough. The narrations are clear that that is not enough. Okay?